So in learning language, there are 5 aspects that need to be mastered. The first aspect is phonetic language, and this is about speech sounds. So this is a sound symbol system based on phonemes. And this means you need to have an awareness of sounds and symbols, and that these symbols create certain sounds. An example I like to use is the letter M, or the symbol for the letter M, creating the sound that we use in words and when speaking. This knowledge is developed by the way children distinguish sounds and how language is used around them in early childhood. Different phonetic knowledges can be developed based on language that children learn. So in Spanish, for example, they have RR signifying R, and that's used differently than just the R, which just comes with a classic R sound. And I'm representing this with a picture of a microphone because it's about speech sounds and how we learn to distinguish those among similar sounding things. The second aspect is semantic language, and that means that oral symbols or spoken words have meaning. This refers to word labels and how these word labels specify concepts and semantic networks that represent interrelations between these words. So an example they used in the book was the word ball. So balls can be made of a lot of things, so rubber, leather, plastic, or we could think football, baseball, basketball, soccer, dodgeball, or we could also think athletes. These are all different concepts, different ideas within the semantic network surrounding the word ball. So I'm representing this with a cup. So when I think cup, I think water, juice, milk, ice, or I could think on the opposite end of the spectrum, hot drinks, mug, coffee, tea, etc. The third aspect is syntactic knowledge, and this refers to combining words correctly to create meaningful phrases and sentences. So correct syntax is required for having a meaningful conversation and understanding others when they speak to you. Syntax will change between languages. So in English, we use the adjective before the noun. So we might say the beautiful house. But in Spanish, it's reverse of that. So they would use the noun before the adjective. So they might say la casa bonita. This can be a problem for ELLs as they switch, especially in Spanish as they switch from Spanish to English, because suddenly they have to relearn a syntax and how to use it properly. I represent this through a letter. This letter is handwritten to me, and it's written with a correct syntax so I can understand it. The fourth aspect is morphemic, and this knowledge refers to a knowledge of word structure. So when we use morphemic knowledge, we break down the units of words. Something they talked about in the book was the word happy, and how we have happy, happily, happiness. And so we break these down by their units, keeping the root word happy, but changing the end to change the meaning ever so slightly. The ability to distinguish and use these units, these morphemes correctly, is a key characteristic of effective language learners and users. And children will acquire this knowledge in early childhood as presented to them in a language environment. So I'm representing this through a puzzle piece. So these puzzle pieces fit together just like the morphemes fit together to create meaning, like these puzzle pieces create a piece of a house. The fifth and final aspect of language is about pragmatic. And pragmatic is knowledge of the overall intent of communication and how language is used to achieve that intent. And this is the intent of the speaker, and then the effect that these things that the speaker has said will have on the listener. There are 4 sections within pragmatic knowledge, and this is communicative intent, conversational rules, politeness, and creating connected discourse or narratives or stories. So children with a strong pragmatic knowledge will likely do better in social situations, but pragmatic knowledge will grow as a child becomes more comfortable in the language. So they'll understand social cues better, they'll understand conversations better, they'll understand when to speak and when not to. So to represent this, I have a book, because going back to that connected discourse area, you have to have a strong sense of pragmatic knowledge to be able to create an understandable book. And those are the 5 aspects of language.